Hi guys, we're continuing with Paris 4 days. So we left off in the third day, the first part. It says starting from the place de Châtelet, take or the Metro Châtelet, lines 1 and 4, 7 and 11. Place du Châtelet. This square took its name from the fortress on the right bank of the Seine, Le Grand Châtelet, which used to control the river crossing at this point. The square itself has existed only since the First Empire. In the middle of the square is the Châtelet fountain, also known as the Palmier or Victoire fountain. The Théâtre du Châtelet and the Théâtre de la Ville are on the two sides of the square. The Place du Châtelet, shown here. The Saint-Jacques Tower. This tower, near the Place du Châtelet, is the steeple of the Church of Saint-Jacques-la-Boucherie, which was demolished in 1797. It had been the church of the butchers, tripe sellers, knackers, and tanners' guilds. More maps that we cannot understand or read. The Church of Saint-Marie. This building was erected between 1520. Over here it's shown St. Jacques Tower on the right here. Okay, the building was erected between 1520 and 1612, the Church of Saint-Marie. You can still see fine examples of 16th century stained glass in the choir and the transept. The name Saint Marie is derived from Médéric, a Benedictine monk who was buried there in 700 AD. Saint Marie is entered at North 76 Rue de la Verrerie. The Pompidou Center. Opened in 1977, the Center of Art and Cultural Activities is only one of its type in Europe and compares favorably with the best in the USA. The center is concerned with all aspects of modern art. With its strange contemporary design, it is well worth a visit. The Hotel de Ville, or Town Hall, is shown here. The guilds and aldermen of the city of Paris ruled the capital under the authority of the provost of the merchants from the 13th century. They used to meet in the Parlier à Bourdieu, or Burgess's talking shop, and which was near the Grand Châtelet, then near Place Saint-Michel, and finally at the Grand Châtelet. In 1357, the provost Etienne Marcel purchased the pillared hall on Place de Grève to give the citizens a meeting place there. The old pillared hall was replaced in the 16th century by the Renaissance Hotel, which was afterwards burnt down in 1871 during the Commune. The present buildings are a reconstruction by Ballou, and Deperdes's inspiration for the facade came from the Renaissance Hotel. The City Council several times played a political role of crucial importance, as at the close of the 14th century, when Etienne Marcel and the merchants surrendered the city to the English. Its importance was accentuated after 1789 and 1792. Commune seized the Hotel de Ville on August 10, while in 1794 Robespierre was arrested there by the soldiers of the Convention. Behind the Hotel de Ville stands the Church of Saints Gervais and Portais, begun at the end of 15th century and not completed until 1657, which explains the contrast between the Gothic body of the building and its classical Greco-Latin front. How funny. Pretty nice and lovely. I know why I keep saying lovely. The Isle St. Louis. Almost all the houses on the island are 17th century, and many of them are protected by the Fine Arts Council. To be noted particularly the Hotel de Lausanne and the Hotel Lambert, also called Le Vau, on the Quai d'Anjou, the Church of St. Louis and Ile, with its rich interior and decoration and collection of embroideries. Cross over to the Isle de la Cité by St. Louis footbridge. Along the Seine, the Isle St. Louis is shown here. I guess a river? Some sort of so it's the scene, I suppose. And it's nice. There's buildings that are okay. Obviously, there's buildings. Boating, fishing, people sitting on the waterfront. The scene, the apse of Notre Dame Cathedral. Notre Dame. Paris's cathedral was begun in 1160 on the orders of Bishop Maurice de Sully. It was finished almost 2 centuries later in 1345. Viollet-le-Duc undertook the restoration which had become necessary in 1841, and the cathedral looks finely in 1864 as it does today. So that's the Notre Dame Cathedral. The Notre Dame is usually acclaimed for its purity of outline, pronounced sobriety of decoration, and its well-balanced proportions. The facade, 3 different doorways surmounted by the 28 statues of the Gallery of Kings. Above this, the large and particularly beautiful rose window has remained unaltered for 700 years. Over it are the arcade of the Grand Galerie and the 2 towers which reach a height of 69 meters above the ground. The spire, rebuilt by Viollet-le-Duc. It is made of oak covered with lead and reaches a height of 90 meters. The apse That's the spire. Pointing. So it's covered with lead on oak. Like wood, I guess. The apse, flying buttresses, and many chapels, 14th century, very highly decorated. Along the side, Saint Etienne doorway, the cloister doorway, and the little red gate. Inside the nave, transept, choir, all bear witness to the magnificence of the finished work. The huge organ by Cavalier Cole, 1863, has recently been refurbished with new keys and is at the present one of the most remarkable in Europe for its range and richness of tone. The organ. That's the scene. Both. And that's the cathedral as well. 1163 to 1345. That's from the opposite side. Alright. Doorway of the Last Judgment. And the three gates of Notre Dame. Cathedral, the gates, and the spire over the river scene. It says so the doorway of the Virgin on the far left, then the doorway of the Last Judgment in the middle, and then the doorway of Saint Anne on the far right. There's three doorways. So Virgin, Last Judgment, and Saint Anne. I don't know what the difference is. They all look the same, actually. Only over the what are those not engraved, the reliefs, whatnot, those are different. Around Notre Dame, in front of the cathedral is the Parvis de Notre Dame. On the side, a garden replaces the ancient Archbishop's Place, a palace burnt by the rebels in 1871. Beyond the cathedral, on the site of the square, Parvis de Notre Dame. Is that what they're referring to? The square, June the 23rd. It says beyond the cathedral, on the site of the square, with the statue of Charlemagne, one now finds the ancient Hotel Dieu, built in the 19th century on the north side of Place du Parvis. At one time, between the north side of Notre Dame and the Seine was the enclosed quarter of Cloister Notre Dame, where the canons and their pupils lived. The scholars in Notre Dame enjoyed a universal reputation from the 11th to the 14th century. A mark in the ground in the Rue de la Colombe shows the site of the old Gallo-Roman wall. In the Rue Chamonix are some interesting 16th and 17th century mansions. So this is St. Stephen's doorway of Notre Dame, in the south transept. Okay, and then let's, I guess, look at for an angle. Oh my god. And then this is a different angle. Do I need to? No. The choir and central nave. It's kind of really high, really high. It looks from this angle. Just like one window. Like three rows of arches, and on the top you have stained glass windows. Like, it must be super dark in there. There's like one single chandelier. Imagine at night how Suki it would be. There's not too much light. The big organ. Oh wow, that's a huge organ. The windows are really nice and with colorful glass. Louis Lepine Place. Stalls selling flowers are open here every day. In spring, this tiny market also sells various types of birds. Yay, birds. The Palais de Justice, the 19th century building of the Préfecture de Police at 36 Quai des Orfèvres. The Museum of the Préfecture de Police stand behind Notre Dame. Round to the right of the Prefecture in the Rue de Justice is the Palais de Justice. This site is of particular historical interest. On it were built successively the residences of the Roman governors of Lutetia in the 4th century and those of the Merovingian kings and of the kings of France, Palais de la Cité. In the 14th century, some of the buildings were made into law courts. Since the 16th century, the whole complex has been used for this purpose. There have been several reconstructions and after 4 fires. The outstanding features which remain are the Corde Mai, the Gallery Marchande, whose name reminds the shops which used to be in the Palais until the 17th century. The clock tower, which contained the first clock in Paris. the Conciergerie, and the Sainte-Chapelle. That's the place. Louis Lepine, the flower market. And then the Quai de l'Horloge, the Conciergerie. Shown here. Quite beautiful shot. The river, the boat, the bridge, and the nice buildings there. Okay. The clock tower is shown here, Tour de l'Horloge. The Conciergerie. The building was so named because it was in the charge of the governor of the king's household. The Tour de l'Horloge and the Tour Bonby or Bonbec stand at either end of this building. Two more towers, the Tour de Versailles and the Tour de Argent, where the royal treasure was stored. I guess tour means tower. Flank the former main entrance. Turned into a prison in the 14th century, many prisoners have passed between its walls. Among the more famous are Ravaillac, Queen Marie Antoinette, the Girondins, Danton, and Robespierre. Of particular note are Marie Antoinette prison, the Chapelle des Girondins, the Cour des Femmes, and the Cour des Deux, which in 1793 and 1794 during the Revolution was known as the antechamber of the guillotine. Those who had received the death sentence were grouped into dozens before being taken to the scaffold. That's that. The Saint's Chapel. Built in the reign of Saint Louis, 13th century, to house the crown of thorns and fragments of Christ's cross. Oh my God. Along with other relics, the Saint Chapel is divided into two separate chapels. The upper chapel links directly with what used to be the royal apartments, and the lower chapel was open to the faithful. So shown here is the Place Saint Michel, and then the Saint Chapel also. This fragile-looking church built by Pierre de Montreuil is Pierre de Montreuil is an architectural achievement, and the windows are the oldest in Paris and represent thousands of characters in vivid colors. The few relics today are housed in Notre Dame. The rest of the Isle de la Cité stretches behind the Palais de Justice as far as Place Dauphine. It says cross over to the left bank by the Saint Michel Bridge. So this place, Saint Michel, in its present state, it dates back to the Second Empire with its monumental fountain, debuted 1860. I guess is the builder. The view from this square takes in the whole of the Isle de la Cité and its monument. Okay, so this is the end of that section. So we're done with the third day of the first part. So with the second part, we'll continue subsequently. Thank you guys. My page is facebook.com YOSALLPLAY, YOSALLPLAY. So I'll see y'all later. Check the time. It is 3:43 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.